Go figure. Weird, right?
So great. I mean, that's what we're doing here, right? Is it's just like trying to build a community over the airwaves. And then if people see you in the wild and they're like, oh, hey,
you give good voice.
Yeah, right. Like what were you talking about? And like how it's just another way it's another bridge as I see it for creating better, more connections in this little town that we're in and wherever else it goes to, you know? Welcome to In the Act, a radio program on process and the creative life. Creativity does not just start and stop with artists. We all make aesthetic or guiding decisions. Our aim is to talk through the process and investigate how we choose to express ourselves and to live creatively. We're connecting with people about their lives. That's the subject of our show. Broadcasting from Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin on Mead Community Radio. I am Erica Hunsinger, and this is In the Act. And today's guest on In the Act is Elaine Jumes. Hi.
Hello. What an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for continuing to have this conversation
absolutely.
With us.
Absolutely.
So we were talking a little bit before the show that I got your name from John, who's our engineer, and it's just this fun story about how you came into the library and we're talking about food trucks. And do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. It was with a colleague of mine who is also a health coach, and we have similar background in education and training for plant-based education and mentoring. We had the crazy idea to look into doing a food truck. And mind you, we had already started doing once a month, I think it was. Now, this was during COVID, so a couple of years ago. At the library, we were hosting Power Plant was our community outreach, if you will, and it was free. People could come to the library and learn. We had a little PowerPoint, learn about what is plant-based nutrition, how can it help you, what's this thing called, what does it do, and we'd give food samples and what have you. And during that time, I know it was kooky. It was hard to get traction because, again, it was winter and it was during COVID and family and friends came, but that was about it. But it helped us formalize kind of what direction we wanted to go and what the possibilities were open to us. And one of them was having a food truck. And we thought, let's go to the library and do some due diligence. And then that's when I met John. He's like, wait a minute, what's this about? So I explained a little bit, I don't know what I'm getting into, but we thought we'd check out a food truck. And I still want to do it, but at my age, I'm thinking, do I really want to bite that much off? No pun intended.
Sure.
And so that's been shelved, and we've taken it into a different direction. She's a busy mom, soccer mom, a yoga instructor, very accomplished woman, singer, used to have a band. And then I was going to do it on my own, but then I became licensed through Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. The acronym is PCRM, and that has afforded me, as a licensed Food for Life instructor, to then put on very scripted, very organized classes. I feel like I'm a plant-based educator. So when I have my cooking demos, I tell people right off the bat, I am not here to teach you how to cook. I'm here to teach you how to eat. And the why behind it. You know, why maybe you want to rethink dairy, maybe rethink carnivorism, rethink some of your lifestyle choices. And it's been very well received. Currently, I'm doing them out of Relish Kitchen Store.
Oh, great, yeah.
But I've gone as far as Appleton for employee wellness seminars, and some can be on diabetes. One was on cancer, breast cancer. I just did a 21-day kickstart for plant-based eating. And spoiler alert, all the diet is the same for each one. Heart disease, reversing type 2 diabetes, depression, Alzheimer's. It's the same diet. It's all plant-based.
Wow. That's so exciting.
I love it. Yeah. In Wisconsin.
I was like, Wisconsin. Yeah. And, the land of dairy and of brats.
Yes.
So.
And it is, and it took some getting used to, and I thought, this is going to land like a lead sled, because a couple of my participants in one of the classes, 2 were from Satori one from Sargento and one from Johnsonville. And I
Right.
thought, they're not going to come back. And not only did they come back, they enjoyed the class. They took information back home. They are, if they're not 100%, they've definitely moved the needle in their own diet and lifestyle choices.
Wow.
Primarily because they didn't know to know that dairy has links to hormone cancers, prostate, uterine, and breast cancer, or they didn't know that meat, all animal products, cheese, dairy, fish, egg whites, all has heme iron and TMA, which we convert to TMAO, which isn't good. And the biggie is IGF-1. It's insulin-like growth hormone, which is great when you're growing up. It's great for a cow to put on 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
But it makes things grow, which we need as we're young. But if you've got a receptor site for cancer, it will also make cancer grow. So
Wow.
you want to know about it. Again,
Right.
it's just being informed.
Yep.
Make whatever choices you want. I mean, people smoke and they know smoking's bad.
Sure.
Back in the day, we didn't know smoking was bad. Your doctor smoked in the reception.
hospitals.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
hospital. But now we know. So, I mean, I see somebody smoking. I don't run up to them and go, gosh, do you know that's bad for you?
Right.
But I want to do that when somebody has breast cancer and they're eating their Greek yogurt because they think they need it, and it's actually leaching calcium from their body because they don't know to know. So I like to tell them the why behind it. And then they go off and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But at least they're informed.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be respectful enough and give people the choice.
Right.
You know, let them make their own adult decisions.
Right.
Certainly the children, though, don't know. And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
criminal. So.
Yeah, indoctrinating. Sure.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I mean, yeah, wow. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of politics, a lot of governmental stuff, a lot of lobbying, the cattle industry, the
Yeah.
dairy industry.
Oh my gosh, totally.
The bit now you have to have for a child to not drink
lunches.
milk in school, they have to have a doctor's excuse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To have an alternative to
Yeah.
the carton of dairy milk.
Fascinating.
And the schools will lose their funding if they don't offer that. So
Yeah.
it runs a lot deeper than just, on the appearance of health.
Oh,
So-
sure. How much is tied back to politics and money is just really fascinating and so unfortunate. It just feels like such a manipulation of the capitalist society that we're in. Does that sound pretty negative? But I think that's
it's
part
it is
of it.
greed. It's money. It's big money, and who can blame them? It's easy money,
Right.
And then now we subsidize meat and dairy, so it's even more
Right.
affordable for low income people to make unwise decisions based on their income or their available,
Right.
after tax money, and it's so frustrating. It makes me very angry.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah. So I do my part.
Yes. I love this.
I do my part. And I also I started it out of vanity because I saw my dad, who's a physician, and
Yeah,
he
that's
read,
what I wanted to get at. I
Yeah,
was
so
like, how did this
come
all
about?
begin?
He was never fat. I was never fat, but what girl doesn't want to lose a couple extra pounds? And I saw him drop like 10 or 15 pounds immediately, and I was like, what's going on? Are you well? He looked terrific, had more energy than it was so annoying, but he just gave up dairy and meat. And I was like, what? What? He showed me
Your
the book.
father did?
Yeah, called The China Study by T. Colin Campbell. And I started reading it, but I got so far into it and I was like, done. I don't even need to finish the book.
So how old were you when that happened?
30s. I've been plant-based now for a couple decades now.
Okay.
But I didn't go completely in. I was still cheating on egg whites. I know that sounds so funny.
Yeah.
Cheating on fish because I thought fish was a good alternative.
Right, pescatarian.
Right. And then in the last 5 years, I've just done. I can't go back. And then I learned about, the environment and the pain and suffering for the animals. I had no idea. I thought dairy cows gave their milk freely to us, and I didn't know that they took their babies away after like 15 minutes after they were born and never to be seen again by their mommy. And just cows live 20, 25 years. We exhaust them in 4 or 5, maybe. Yeah. It's horrible. And it also makes and keeps us sick by eating them. So what are we doing? It's more robust and far-reaching than I ever thought.
Right.
I went down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. It definitely is like the trick or the pebble in the water.
The ripple effect.
Like ripple effect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That has the starting to make decisions and questioning the next part of, well, if this, then what does this mean?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Like the milk. Okay. So how do we get the milk?
Yeah.
What does happen to the cow?
Yeah.
What happens to their calves? What happens, to the environment? What about the crap that they use? Like, what about the methane gas? Like, what about the runoff from pesticides and the hormones and all of those pieces that are, I think really kept, and, not to mention the butchering and the all of that, is terrifying.
The vivid stuff, yes.
Yeah. And that's really kept under wraps, because if more people knew about it, I think it would be too hard for them. I mean, I have a lot of vegan friends, and they're like, well, how do you eat pigs when they're so smart? If pigs are as smart as dogs, you wouldn't eat your dog, right? Or your cat. But those are still animals they're sentient beings that can feel afraid, can feel love, can feel affection, can have these
but they're not cuddly,
experiences,
Erica.
Right?
They're not cuddly.
Well, right?
Yeah. No, they're actually smarter than dogs.
Yeah. They are. Yeah. Yeah.
But I hear this a lot too. It's those videos and knowing about it and looking at it. It's too painful. It's too upsetting to people. To which I then say, you ought to be upset. This is very upsetting to watch. And I know a lot of my friends who are 100% plant-based have seen enough of it and they don't need to see anymore. But those who haven't, to that I say, knowledge is power, number one. And if it's so upsetting, how can you then continue to participate in their pain?
And what's your thoughts on that? Like, why do you think people still do if they know about how it is? I mean, like, is it, but the burger is so good? Or like, what's the follow-up?
That is a really good question.
Because that's what I hear, right? Like, that's it's like, well, man, I love my steaks. Like, but you belong to PETA. Like, like it's funny. Like, are you just doing your part in like, well, I'll do this part, but I can't do this. I'm not going to give up my steak or my burger. I think what is the link or the chain?
For the disconnect, yes. Yeah. To that, I have to step back and think back on my journey, because everybody's on their own journey.
Absolutely.
And I did live in California for almost 35 years, and I remember I was such a jerk when I answered or responded to somebody who was vegan, and she was saying something about, makeup and not being tested on animals, and then the conversation went from there to veal. And I said some jerk response like, well, I mean, they're in these little igloo things, and it's not like they don't have fresh grass because they just pick the igloo up and move it, and then they've got fresh grass. And she looked at me like, what? And I'm looking at her like, you're nuts. Yeah. And I grew up, we're Greek, so we decided to buy one sheep. They're a herding animal. You don't get just one, but we did, and we tried it out, and we slaughtered it and figured out, hey, we can do this. We have the acreage, the land. So we had up to 30 sheep at one time, and we had slaughtered chickens for our own consumption as well. So who am I to say, how dare you? No, it took me a long time too to erase that disconnect.
Sure.
And I think it's just a comfort level. It is painful to talk about. And when someone's, I don't know what the flipping turning point is for each person. It's individual. But it's going to be something personal that'll touch them. And again, everybody's on their own timeline with this. It's not fast enough for me, because now that I know that Oz is, the curtain's been pulled back. Right. I can't go back. And I'm always fascinated when I run into people who say, oh, yeah, I was vegan for a number of years, but it was just too difficult. I'm like, what? What part did you know? I don't know. Yeah. It's a disconnect. But so I don't have a good answer for you, but I know my journey. I didn't get it at first either. Yeah. I did not get it. So now I can't go back. There's just no way. Right. But I do know that talking about the animals can be very off-putting. Yes. And in fact, in my course work through PCRM, they do not want me talking about the animals, even though they were founded on getting animal testing out of universities and hospitals and clinics and stuff for, testing any kind of product and what have you. But they don't want us talking, as an instructor for them, they don't want us talking about, the animal advocacy part of it, which I find fascinating. I'm like, this is a huge part.
Right.
But it's more my job as an instructor, a Food for Life instructor with PCRM, is to focus on the medical benefits and the reversal of comorbidities and disease just through food, diet and lifestyle.
Well, it's the same philosophy in preschool, like where you say, instead of saying like, stop running, you say, please walk.
Okay.
Right? So it's that mental shift of
entice versus negation.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think, as I understand.
Oh, I believe
things,
that because instead, and I try not to talk about veganism. I talk about plant-based.
I know. I was going to ask you about that.
And I don't talk about, those dairy is bad or this is bad. There are no bad foods, good foods. It's, we all hold certain foods in certain ways. A lot of people say, well, it's genetic. My family, diabetes runs in my family or heart disease runs. No, you know what runs in your family? Bad recipes run in your family. Genetics plays such a small part. Some statistics say 3% is based on genetics. Some as high as like 3 to 7%. Certainly no more than 10%. But I'm sure I have cancer genes, other genes. They're just not switched on because I choose not to eat that way, so I'm not going to trigger it and express it.
Right.
But think about it. If you have pets, you take them to a vet. What's the first thing the veterinarian asks you? What are you feeding your dog?
Right.
Our doctors don't even know nutrition. They get just a couple hours in medical school. So it's not even your doctor's fault.
Oh, sure.
When they cracked your chest, gave you a stent, bypass surgery, they don't have the nutritionist saying, okay, now this is very important because you don't want to end up on the table again.
Yeah.
So I want you to see this person and talk about plant-based stuff and blah, blah, blah. They don't do it because they don't know to know.
Right.
So I have a handful.
My general doctor, as a little tidbit, actually said to me, she's like, you need to lose weight. And so I know you're struggling with it. So I need you to eat half of what you normally eat. And if that means, if you're just having a salad every day, I want you to just eat half of that salad. And I just went home like thinking that was such terrible advice. I don't even know how to or what to begin.
Can you imagine? I want you to quit smoking, but so just smoke half a pack of cigarettes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That heroin addiction, I just want you to do half of it.
Just do half. Just cut it in half. Yeah.
Awesome. Brilliant.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and that's what I love about eating this way because it's not about measuring or weighing your food or restricting your calorie intake or counting calories. It's just about, I eat not whatever I want, but I basically do eat whatever I want. What I want happens to be really healthy food, but there's no restriction to it. I eat potatoes, I eat pasta, I eat rice, I eat all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't eat any animal products. So.
Right.
It's awesome. This is like the mainstream. I'm having a whoopsie day today because
Oh, full moon.
Is that what it is? I swear.
Yeah. Sorry. Welcome back to In the Act. I'm Erica Hunsinger. We are here with Elaine Jumes, who is an EJ. I'm also an EJ. We noticed this on the way,
Yes.
on the way downstairs.
EJ squared.
That's right. I'm always interested in hearing, there's been so much information in the first third of this talk already. And I kind of want to parse out some of it a little bit. You weren't, the focus really is this plant-based, and it was via your father, which I think is a fascinating thing because it's usually the reverse. Mm-hmm. Usually the child is informing the parent of new and upcoming nutrition or whatever, which is a really interesting dynamic to model for you. Mm-hmm. So there's that piece of it, but also, that you were from Wisconsin and then moved away.
and then move back.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like your timeline on things? And because I think it's really interesting for people to hear other people's stories and timelines of their lives, because it helps them process their own lives.
Okay. Yes. So I grew up on the north side, out in the country. Our neighbors had dairy cows. We grew up on 60 acres of farmland.
Wow.
And my dad was an anesthesiologist here in town. And at some point, I didn't know this, but apparently when we were real young, he had taken some flying lessons and then had an epiphany and thought, what am I doing? If this thing crashes, I'm leaving a wife with 4 kids, So he shelved that.
Interesting.
And then when we were, I'm the youngest of the 4, so when I was taking my first or second semester in college, he was at the point like, no, I'm going to do this for myself. So he ended up taking some flying lessons, but realized it's cheaper if you buy an aircraft. And he got an old aircraft, totally safe, but Piper Cherokee 180. And he started taking flying lessons. And then us kids and my mom got involved, except for when my sister gets sick in airplanes. So she did not participate. But my dad became a private pilot, instrument pilot. My mom became a private pilot. My one brother, I think he soloed, but he's a periodontist now up in Appleton. And my other brother and I, who were very close, we went on and took professional training in Chicago, became professional pilots, flight instructors. He still flies to the I know, it makes no sense.
This is great.
So I interrupted my schooling. I was going to do it for a summer, and next thing you know, I'm not going back to school. I'm this walking investment. So I went into aviation and thought I should, at least explore and use it. So I did fly for a number of years, moved to California.
Like in a commercial airliner?
Well,
or
yes, yes
okay.
and no. So then the whole thing with pilots is they try to build their hours, and you build time and hours, and that's how you get your job, because they don't ask, They always want to know how many hours you have, and that'll get you your next job. So the first job is like running freight or doing traffic watch. So it's an easy, brainless job, but it builds a lot of hours cheaply, and you get paid for it. So after flight instructing, in Chico, California, Northern California.
Okay.
I also did some in Benton Harbor for about a year, Harbor, Michigan.
Sure.
But moved out to California and started doing that. Got an offer to run freight, which you are a freight operator. You fly alone, and this really dates me. I was flying canceled checks, and sometimes organs in the coolers, and what was the other thing? Oh, a UPS contract, so boxes and mail and packages. And I did that for a year and 2 weeks and got hired on with American Eagle, so a regional airline pilot. And I did that for a while. And what did I do after that? I think I fooled around, fell in love, got in debt, and got married. And then realized I wasn't getting on with the major airlines because I didn't have a finished degree. So I went back to school. Yeah. And my husband at the time said, totally fine. He was going to continue to fly. And while I went back to school, we ended our relationship as friends, and still friends to this day. But at some point, I moved back home for an adult timeout. And
I love that. I love that you just said that. I moved back home for an adult timeout. It's great.
Yeah, and I was an adult. And my parents were very gracious. And my brother said, why don't you come fly with me? And he was flying jets at the time. I said, I don't have jet time. And he said, just, I can fly it by myself. And he was classed and typed in a certain type of Citation 560 aircraft that he said, I don't need a co-pilot, but you can sit there and look pretty and put the gear up and the flaps up, and we'll pay you $250 a day. And I was like, out of my mind. I was like, wow. And so I was able to get out of debt, start investing, and they trained me to become a jet pilot. And then I did others. So that was here in town, and then for Winway Aviation, and then also for Richardson Lumber. I flew a co-pilot in their Lear, but I missed California, and I just started rock climbing. So I moved back out there, and I thought I was hot. You know what? And
Yeah.
I thought, I can pick up a jet job, no problem.
Yeah.
Erica, guess what happened then? 9/11 happened. And you could not buy an aviation job. So
Wow.
then I went into whatever, marketing, nonprofits, and so
That's a big switch.
it was, but yeah.
Like to manage that, to do that switch, that's hard. To feel as if you're what you've been going towards and working on, right? Then you have to creatively think, like, what else am I going to do then? What do I need to do? What do I like to do to maintain this?
Luckily, I went
Life.
back to school. So
Yeah.
I'm divorced now. I have this, start of an aviation career,
Yeah.
but I have unfinished college. So I went back to school, and lo and behold, I realized I was really good at writing and communicating. And so I got picked up at nonprofits like the Breast Cancer Fund or the American Society on Aging. And lo and behold, somewhere along the line, aviation would the rubber band of aviation would lure me back in. And like maybe not even in a flying capacity, but in a marketing capacity was
Sure.
one. So I have this weird background of hybrid aviation and hybrid of nonprofit. And then I'd go back and work marketing for Deloitte and Touche. And then I'd go back into aviation. Someone would say, hey, can you help start our flight department? And then I'd get back in aviation. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but I'm jack of all trades, master of none. But
I love that.
Yeah, but
I mean, kind of master, but okay.
Well, then I did start paying attention to this plant-based eating. It wasn't called plant-based eating then, and in fact, it was a female pilot who said that comment about the makeup and animal testing, and I said that one really irresponsible, naive comment about the veal.
Yep.
And worked my way into management for a couple companies, and then got laid off. And there were a couple family members who were having health issues, so I moved back here. Oh, I was laid off, and so I didn't have a job. I thought, well, I'll move back here. And then COVID hit. So I thought, well, why don't I go back to school for what is my passion? Everybody thinks aviation was my passion, but it was fun. It was interesting. It was a way to be close to my father, who I was very close with, and my one brother. So I went back to school for health and nutrition and got my health coach license and certified nutrition with CNS, Center for Nutrition Studies, and finally got applied and accepted. Took me 3 years to get my Food for Life license with PCRM, and here I am today doing nutritional education classes on plant-based eating.
That is such an awesome story, Elaine. I am just like, this is so great. Like,
Pilot turned plant-based.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And can you tell me where did you study? What was it called again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, it's quite all right. The Institute for Integrative Nutrition was the IIN is my health coaching.
IIN,
and then Center for Nutrition Studies through Cornell.
Okay, so this was
T.
all
Colin
online
Campbell.
then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then the Food for Life instructor used to be in person, but because of COVID they
changed
shut it
so
down,
much.
and I just missed out on that, so it had to be online.
Yeah.
But they had it dialed in so well, and the resources and the support were there. So I've got them on speed dial now. In fact, when I give my classes, I say, let's stump PCRM. I said, if they have a question and I don't know the answer, I'll get it to them, the next day. But they're on speed dial, and
that's so great. I love it.
It really is nice.
So then, okay, so you finish school, you get your certificate,
Credentials,
right?
yeah.
Credentials. What was your dream to do after that? Like, what was your plan? Yeah.
You act like I know what I want to do when I grow up. Wow.
No.
Yeah,
That's
you're
totally
giving me way
fine.
too much credit.
Oh, I hear that.
For me, and it is more about the animals now, but in a sneaky way, I realize I need to tone that down, and I do. And there's so much goodness that comes out of eating this way that people can get off their medications and, pills, procedures, pain. That can be avoided through just easy lifestyle changes. So I would like to educate the community.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying, doing this today is helpful.
Sure.
I am doing boothing events across the state. I did the Bacon Bash last year up in outside of the Twin Cities, but it was in Wisconsin. River Falls, I think it was. a vegan booth at a bacon bash thing, but we did faux bacon food, and it was very well received.
I bet it was.
Crazy. So I'm doing a booth at Nourish Farms late in July, and I'll probably host another breast cancer fund for PCRM, which is all, again, plant-based nutrition about how to either prevent cancer and breast cancer or avoid the reoccurrence and manage your existing breast cancer. So
Wow.
and lessen the effects. So it's super exciting to see that people actually get well. You know?
Yeah. And, I think so many, it's like what's easiest and what's available and what are your options. I think so much of the time that's what it revolves around, because there's always going to be a brat somewhere. There's always like a glass of milk in the fridge. We're so overworked and tired, and there's so many people that just buy like frozen dinners and have those. Like I think Burger King was really surprised that the Impossible Burger has done so well for them.
Yes.
But because there's an option in a fast food business that is a plant-based option.
Right.
And so I'm sure that like the Bacon Fest and other, places have received that well, because it's a different option for your health.
Right. Well, and people were thrilled. Like if they went there with their meat-eating husband, who will always be a carnivore and a deer hunter and what have you, and they would just be thrilled because, the wife or the siblings or the kids were, they had something to eat instead of just bacon, of, bacon ice cream or whatever they had. So, it really, I was surprised at, and even the people who weren't interested or, plant-based adjacent or whatever, they thought it tasted great. And I'm like, what were you thinking? We're not going to serve something that's not good tasting.
Yeah.
It's
I
surprising.
think people remember like vegan cheese in the 90s. Ugh. It was terrible.
Yeah. I still think it's not that great. But
I mean, I have a friend who can make the best cheese in the entire world. That's all vegan. It's like cashews or almonds or walnuts just there's so much preparation though too. Like I think you just have to be more vigilant about how you create your life. It's just a little bit. You just have to tweak a little bit. It takes time, and it takes informing people. I think in some ways it feels a little bit like an allergy. Like, I'm allergic to wine. So like I'm allergic to meat, right?
Right.
So you can't serve meat. In some ways it operates a little bit like an allergy in that way. Like, well, you can't serve anything that's not plant-based to a plant-based person. Like if you're having them over, do you understand this? Like you can't serve like Parmesan crackers.
That's funny.
Right?
That's funny. Well, two things to that.
These tiny things about just fixing your dial in your head.
Right, because people want ease, but they want immediacy, so they'd rather take a pill because they want it done yesterday.
Right. Yes.
And yes, it does. It takes time to get things dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There was something else I was going to say about the plant-based something or other, and it just leaked out of my head.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably come back.
It usually does, but it'll be 3 a.m, and I'll give you a call then. And say,
Right.
Found it. I remembered it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been received well, and I'm trying to think of that last thought now. No, it's gone.
That's okay. So within this, and I don't want to like try and make it such a negative. I know I'm coming at it like with these like negative points on it, because I think there's so many meat eaters and so many non-plant based eaters that I'm trying to like push these points to have this dialogue, because I have a vegan sticker on the back of my car. I get and I get a number of comments about it. My dad borrowed my car, and there was some funny comments that he got from some friends.
Oh, I bet.
But it's about conversation starters too. And I love what you said earlier on about everyone's on their own journey, and that where are you fitting in? What's okay with you? What is your circle of what you won't do or what you will do? Where do those boundaries lie?
For me personally?
For everyone, right? But
okay.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then there are junk food vegans too, because just when people purport to be a vegan, licorice is vegan and Coca-Cola is vegan and Oreos are vegan. It doesn't mean you're healthy.
That's right.
So that's why
Right.
I do like this idea of calling things plant-based and then take it one step further and whole food plant-based, because the whole ultra-processed of everything is crazy. And there's ultra-processed vegan food.
Yeah.
And
which is why I have allergies to some preservatives.
Okay.
And so I can't have some of the plant-based like faux meats because there's so many preservatives in
There's
them.
a lot, and there's a lot of oil in it too.
Yeah.
That is just, oil is really damaging. And I'm, being Greek, used to think oil was great for you, but it actually interferes with the flexibility of your cardiovascular, or your cardiovascular system, as well as your arteries and your blood vessels. So it really damages that endothelial cell lining of your blood vessels, and people don't realize this. And we assault it 3 times a day, 4 times a day with oil, thinking it lubricates. It really doesn't.
Right.
And then getting back to the processed food, I mean, the WHO came out in 2015.
World Health Organization.
Yes, World Health, the WHO, saying that processed meats are a class 1 carcinogen. So that includes not just lunch meats, but bratwurst and summer sausage and all the things that make up Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Right.
And to go against that is you're basically telling somebody, you're threatening their livelihood.
Right.
And to that I
That's the
say,
crux of it.
hey, if you worked for Philip Morris and you were making cigarettes, the company doesn't demand that you also smoke, do they? So it doesn't mean you have to then partake in it.
Right.
Just be informed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people will always smoke. Even though we know, we're educated, we know it's bad.
Right.
People will always eat meat, but I think there should be a sin tax on it. It should not be subsidized, and it should reflect the true cost of the pain and the working conditions.
Yeah.
People in rendering plants,
oh my gosh.
they are not happy people, and you're around death and blood and gross stuff all day long.
Yeah.
You don't come home and lovingly treat your family. There's all sorts of socioeconomic stuff that goes with that, and there are a lot of abuse, a lot of what am I trying to say? Family disruption, all sorts of horrible stuff. Anger, pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, alcohol abuse, drugs, but battery. It's a social issue as well, and people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So, and why not take out the middleman? We'll grow the food, we'll eat the food, and we'll not have that middleman, the cow, the sheep, the duck, the chicken, and it'll be more efficient, and we won't be ruining the oceans and the rivers, and it's a nice thing. But I do think people will always eat it, and there will be a market for it, but I think it ought to be really expensive and on the occasion, know. And we will look at people who eat meat as being either really decadent or dumb and decadent. In much the same way, if I would have a cigarette now, I know I'm being naughty. I know it's bad for my health. I know all these things, but it's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
So that's how we'll look at people who then choose to eat meat or animal products. So that's my dream.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Welcome back to In the Act. I'm Erica Hansinger. We are here with Elaine Jumes. We're having a little conversation about overprocessed burgers, specifically that are plant-based, like the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger and stuff like that. Yeah. And you had some thoughts about that? I was like, you're just taking out the meat, really. You're taking out the animal from the product. And I like that because I love a burger. I would rather not eat a cow. I would rather just eat it plant-based. So I would choose a plant-based burger. However, there are so many preservatives and things inside that it's difficult for my body to process too.
Absolutely.
So you have some thoughts about that?
Yes, because people say, well, what about that? What about the Beyond Burger, the Impossible Burger, all the faux meats out there and the faux cheeses?
Yeah.
And I do have some thoughts on that because for the animal advocacy part of me, I love it because we're not participating in the pain and the destruction and all that jazz. However, I don't eat them. I won't eat them. I did eat them though because, and I encourage my participants in my classes and my clients to certainly try them or the tofurkey or whatever the faux meats are. Am I saying it right? I don't know.
The tofurkey.
It sounds funny to my ears.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. The
but
hot
it's
dog
tofurkeys.
Yeah.
Great transitional food. In fact, I served it once to a bunch of pilot friends of mine. We had this big dinner party in California, and it was a pasta, and I had that sausage cut down the diagonal, so it looked really. They said, "So you do cheat, Elaine, don't you?" And I said, you're on to me. Yes. That whole night, those people for weeks, they thought, you do cheat on meat. And because they couldn't tell, because it's about the spices and everything, and they jazz it up so much with the flavor. But
They've done
it
such
does
a good
have,
job with them.
They have, but again, it gets back to the preservatives and all the coloring and the coconut oil or the oils or whatever and the fat content. They're not that healthy.
No.
And you will see, of course, any cattle industry and the dairy industry and all these big governmental lobbyist type stuff will say, they're poking holes at, see, the faux meats actually cause cancer. They say all these, and I'm like, they're not that good for you.
Yeah.
But it does take the animal out of the loop.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's like,
it's still consequential to your body.
right. But I don't eat burgers anyway. It's like someone said to me recently, I don't drink anymore. Why would I have a NA beer or faux wine? That's not even appealing to me. So why would I do that? Just make your own black bean burger or your own sweet potato burger, and you can control what goes into it.
Yes.
And it's really tasty and affordable. Being plant-based is not, you don't have to be rich. It's not affluent. It's not entitled. It doesn't have to be organic. It's actually very approachable.
Yeah. I will say, growing up in Elmhurst and outside of Chicago, and living in Chicago for a number of years, I did not find the best vegetables. So all my vegetables didn't taste very good. When I moved to Wisconsin and was able to go to the farmer's market or felt like it was more accessible, and I lived with someone who was pretty much plant-based, she was like, let me make you a pizza. And I was like, excellent. Yay. Pepperoni, like Chicago style, right? I'm just like, woo. And she was like, oh no, we're making a vegetable pizza. And I was like, this is going to be so gross. And I'm so upset. She's making everything from scratch. And this is going to be so bad. And it was one of the best pizzas I've ever had. And I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Why does the vegetable taste so good? The farmer's market, everything is so fresh, and I think it makes such a difference when you're so close to the farmer.
Yes.
To what's being grown, where it's being grown, and to shop and eat local.
Yes.
Makes such a difference. Or grow your own if you have the ability to, growing your own herbs and all of that, and starting from that whole food to then create your own bean burger, to create your own.
Right.
All of those things. Yeah.
That's so true. And it's a super message for children. I don't have children, but my colleague, I hope I can say her name on here, Robin Denning is also a health coach. You know Robin Denning?
I do know
Oh my
Robin.
God, she's well, she was doing the stuff with me at the library under Power Plant, and it's always so interesting what comes out of her children's mouths. They're just the wittiest and so informed children.
Oh, they're so great.
But Cable, I guess one night instead of having snacks, they were just eating handfuls of raw spinach.
Wow.
And I think they were 4 and 6 years old at the time, or 5 and 7 or something. Who does that? What child does that? But because they grew it, they saw it. I think it's much the same way if kids will help chop and cook and do stuff in the kitchen, they'll be more apt to eat whatever it is.
The stone soup. I was a preschool teacher for
the
almost
stone
20
soup,
years.
yes.
And whenever, when I taught up here with Keely Fippen, and she was like, we do stone soup here.
Keely
and I was like,
Fippen was my typing teacher at Horace Mann.
oh my gosh.
And her, right? It wasn't Mrs. Fippen?
Yes, her mother,
Oh, maybe, okay, the mother.
Joyce.
I guess I never knew her first name because I
Yeah.
wasn't on that level with
Joyce.
her.
Yeah.
But
oh
didn't
my gosh.
her brother then open up Nature's Best?
Yep,
or the
and Weather Center.
Okay.
Yeah, Teak.
Teak, yes.
Yes.
What a vanguard he was.
Yes.
Honestly.
That whole family,
In
they're
Sheboygan.
amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just loved the mother. Oh my God, she was so cool.
How cool.
So cool. And
so
she taught
great.
business administration or something, and
Yeah.
whatever at Horace Mann. My favorite teacher, just the
Oh my
coolest, hippest
gosh.
woman, and she would dress, really cool. and
Yeah.
just, loved her. Okay,
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, her daughter, Keely,
Okay.
I worked with her and we were preschool teachers together at the John Michael Clark Arts Center. And she's like, we do stone soup every year. And stone soup, you had all the kids in the class bring one vegetable to add to this pot.
Yes.
And so because they had ownership and power over bringing in this, whether it's a carrot or spinach, like they signed up, like not so that not everyone would bring like peas or something
Right.
like that, but then everybody brought their own vegetable and they put it into the soup and we boiled it and made this soup made from all of these different vegetables from all of these little 4-year-olds and whose parents were like, they will never ever eat this. And because they had the ownership and they were so proud to bring in that carrot,
Yes.
they were like eating that soup and going, look, that's my carrot.
Yeah.
And eating the carrot. And then the friend next to them was like, hey, you got one of my peas. And it became this, because it's a community effort,
Sure.
because they have, they're proud of it, right? And they create something together. And that idea of creation and growth and sharing.
The connection of where it came from to my tummy and the goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Makes a huge difference. And you can use that same thing. You can use that as a template moving forward with everybody. Like how can you create your own stone soup? Which I
love
think is like Tommy DePaula, I think, as a book. You can get it at the Mead Library. Upstairs on the 3rd floor.
Little PSA.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so super true. And I think Nourish Farms does a good job with, showing kids where their food comes from, how to plant it, how to
Yes.
nurture it, how to grow it. And then, yes, it will end up on the table. And maybe they never liked asparagus, but lo and behold, they're eating asparagus all of a sudden.
Right.
So,
yeah. And there is some like study, you probably know this, but something like it takes like 6 times on the tongue for you to incorporate a new taste into your vocabulary of taste.
Oh,
So
interesting,
when
yeah.
people are like, oh yeah, I don't like that. It's like, okay, well, maybe you need to try it a few more times in different contexts.
Maybe you
And
need
it
to be held
actually-
down, throat massage 6 more times before you enjoy it. Okay.
But not necessarily. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just that you brought that asparagus to your stone soup party, right? And now that it's in part of this, experience, it changes. It changes.
It's and so much of it is mental because you just made me flash on a childhood memory where we had the Gore kids. Dr. Gore had 4 kids, just like my dad had 4 kids, and 2 boys, 2 girls. We were pretty much married up, matched up on our age levels, and they came for overnight. And because we were such an athletic family, we were eating my parents out of house and home, and that's when we started working at my uncle's restaurant, Jumes Restaurant. We got free food. But prior to that, we, instead of drinking the neighbor's dairy milk, we were brought up on non-fat carnation powdered dry milk, and you'd add water to it and you'd shake it up, and that's because we were just drinking so much of it. We would have friends over, and the Gore girls, I remember Beth Gore would say, I don't like that. So my mom put it in an old carton of milk, and all of a sudden she goes, oh, that's so much better. So it's perception, it's mental,
so much of it is.
Getting back to the taste buds, if you will.
Right.
But
What is it, Dr. Gore?
Dr. Gore, Gore, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a surgeon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was another doctor in town who had a sculpture garden in...
Dr. Groff.
Dr. Groff, who
Yeah.
actually went plant-based
Yes.
in the later years of his life.
He used to host here at the Mead Library the Forks Over Knives.
That's right,
viewing.
Forks Over Knives
And
viewing.
as a physician, he could then answer questions
Right.
on it.
Yep.
And I had a crush on him for a number of years. Yes.
He was really cool.
Oh, he was so cool. And had such a awesome laugh. Yeah, he was a urologist here in town.
Right.
And my dad and him were very good friends.
And he
Yeah.
was also a professional mushroom forager.
Yes. Yes. And a coffee aficionado too. We would have coffee together. I'd come back and visit when I was in California as an
Yeah.
adult, and we'd have coffee. And,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. He was a good guy. Good stuff.
I love this. I love that, like, Sheboygan has been this really interesting, like, as a pilot too. Like, I'm like doing this. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like flying, like those little like animation series of like flying over here, hopping over here. But like, you know,
Now it's happening to you. You lost your thought. I love it.
it takes me a while. It just does to formulate things. Sometimes I'm like quick fire, and sometimes it just like it has to kind of slow grow. But I'm just thinking about as you've been talking about how you were really curious and your family was athletic and you had this really great bond together. Did many similar things together, like all sort of like did the flight thing then together, and have these, you personally, trekking in different places to find the best part of you that you need for yourself, even though it's not planned. You know, if you said it was that, you know, you were like, you give me too much credit. I'm not planning. I don't have this plan necessarily.
No, and I never wanted to fly. I was playing with Barbie dolls and getting horse magazines and wedding magazines. And, you know, my brother was making model airplanes. But I was really close with my brother, really close with my dad. And I was like, oh, okay. Had they bought a horse, I would have learned equestrian. Had they bought a yacht, I would have learned yachting.
Right.
They bought a darn airplane. So.
I love that. And I think that's such a great piece to share because I think that's how we learn from each other. It's such a natural state of what's that person next to you doing? Who's the person that you care about or that you love or that you're in your family with that they have a joy or interest in that you then follow or can get experience with as well. And that's like these Venn diagrams are all over the place, you know, and that you created this giant Venn diagram for yourself, like from California back to here. But then, you know, creating all of these, like, as you learn, incorporating more, as you grow, as you get your certifications and your credentials, and then branching out into these other places that create new learning experiences. And, you know, it's really cool.
Well, where I'd like to take it eventually would be, and I don't know how to do this. Trying, and it's very hard in this area, but to be a liaison for physicians and be their go-between pre-surgery or post-surgery. And a couple of my physician friends, and I meet them at retreats and stuff. One guy was upset. He had a heart attack, and he is a gastrointestinal surgeon. And he didn't know that plant-based eating, this and that, all of it could have been avoided. So he went back to work. He survived well and then learned about plant-based, and he will never go back. But he was upset. He said, well, schedule your surgery 30, 45 days out. But meanwhile, he'd slide him a pamphlet. He goes, I want you to read this. I want you to go plant-based for 30 days. They would end up canceling the surgery. Well, the people in his medical group were getting upset because he was losing money for the group because he was literally talking people out of, not talking about it, they did their own talking. They were their own living miracle. That they no
being
longer
proactive versus
needed
reactive.
It. Yeah. So he quit his job and does something else completely now.
Wow.
Sold his farm and to a sanctuary. I mean, his own story is really remarkable.
I love it.
But I would
and
love
everybody's
to,
got one, but go ahead.
But that's what I'd like to do. And I'm trying to get a hold of this, I won't mention his name, a cancer group here in town. And in the discussions I've had, I haven't met him, but we've been back and forth, talked once on the phone, I think, and a couple emails. And I said who I am, licensed through PCRM. He was not familiar with them. I said, could I share it with your other folks, your other medical people? He is a cancer survivor, but in his mind, exercise is the key to success. Mm-hmm. And I don't disagree. Exercise is very important. But when you have cancer, why would you continue feeding it if you know that certain foods actually trigger it and make it manifest and grow it, exponentially? And he's not receptive to it yet. So I'm still struggling with how I can, because I think he's making decisions for his constituents that aren't fair, or, let them have the choice.
Right.
If they say, I'd rather just, go kayak or do my Zumba.
Right.
I don't care about diet. At least they had the choice. But he's making this decision for them, at least in my eyes, and maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. So my idea is my next Food for Life class in October on cancer, breast cancer, I'm going to gift him like 5 slots for his folks and see if they, it's $40 a class, and they usually run for about 5 weeks. So I'm thinking I care less about the money. I care more about, moving the needle and helping people with their medical conditions. So but it's tough. So,
and that's where, as we're ending, as we're closing up shop here, if you could say anything to kind of encapsulate this, that's your message, is trying to inform and, I don't want to say.
No, I do. I want to educate.
And,
and it's not about, it is about changing people's outlook, but I want to inform them so they can make their own informed decisions.
Yes.
And empower them.
Yes.
And empower them to take their health back, because we're way too trusting with our medical community and our we treat them as gods. If they say, do this, well, okay. Why are you taking those 5 medications? I don't know. My doctor said so.
Right.
You're taking 5 medications and 3 more just to counteract the results of the medication. So if it has action, it'll have a reaction.
Sure.
So, I want to inform people and
if
empower
people
them.
wanted to get a hold of you, where would they find you to find out more?
They could go to www.farsightedfoodie.com. So farsighted, spelled just like nearsighted versus farsighted.
Okay.
So Farsighted Foodie, FOODIE.com. And I got that because I am farsighted. I now need cheaters and reading glasses. But there's a term, and it's on my website, where I talk about this. As a professional pilot, you have to think ahead of the aircraft. The faster the jet goes, the more you have to think ahead of it, because you'll be over the airport before you know it. Now you have to lose thousands of feet of altitude, and you don't want to run off the runway and land at the wrong airport. So you have to be farsighted about it, much like what you eat today is going to affect you, good, bad, or ugly, down the road. So you want to be farsighted about your health and
Farsighted Foodie.
And your piloting. I don't know. But I just, give them the information, treat them like adults, they'll act like adults.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much, Elaine.
Thank you.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. I love it.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Huge thanks to Mead Public Library, the fantastic Melissa Prentice, Josh Littner, Annalisa Finca, the radio committee, our amazing engineer John Tully, and for the title, Photo and Fabulous, theme music composed and performed by Cooper Deers.
In the Act is produced in the studios at Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. More information on the web at meadpl.org.